Before getting into the meat of this video, some context is required. Family annihilator Chris Watts murdered his pregnant wife and then put her body into the bed of his truck as his two daughters, Bella and Cece, watched. He then situated Bella and Cece into the back seat and drove them to a remote stretch of desert that he was familiar with due to his employment with Anadarko Petroleum. He unloaded his deceased wife as his daughters remained in the cab. Shanann's body would not fit through the small opening to the oil tank, so Chris dug a shallow grave, and Bella and Cece watched their father bury their mother and unborn brother, who was to be named Nico Lee. He then smothered Cece with a blanket in the back seat. Bella was right beside her, and she didn't really know what was going on. Family annihilator Chris Watts then shoved Cece's body into the oil tank, and then he returned to the truck, where Bella asked if he was going to do the same thing to her as he had just done to Cece. And he didn't answer her, he just did it. After disposing of his family, Chris went to work, but his wife Shanann was supposed to be driven to a doctor's appointment by her neighbor Nicole Atkinson. When Nicole couldn't get a hold of Shanann, she called Chris Watts. Not satisfied with his response, Nicole called the police for a welfare check, and once the police called Chris, he was suddenly concerned, but not concerned enough to allow the responding officer access to his house without being there himself. Which likely would have been a red flag, considering that his pregnant wife already had health concerns, had missed an appointment, and could not be reached. When he finally arrived home, he conspicuously entered through the garage, leaving Nicole and the police officer to wait for nearly 2 minutes before he opened the front door. After searching the Watts house and discovering Shanann's medication and cell phone, Nicole Atkinson invited Watts and the responding officer to the home she shared with Nathan Trenistich to watch their security footage, which, unbeknownst to Chris, had a view of his driveway. Based on Chris's body language while watching the footage, it is safe to assume that he thought it was over then and there, seeing as he knew that he'd been recorded loading his family into his truck as if they were produce, and had this been noticed, he certainly would have been arrested. However, Chris had kept to the side of the truck opposite to the camera. What was obvious to him was not obvious to the observers, and despite his anxieties, the footage appears innocuous to those without the gift of hindsight. Ironically, it was Chris's response to the footage that was almost as damning as had it showed what he feared it did. Strange to think that Nicole Atkinson and Nathan Trenistich are likely already aware that the man in their living room just murdered the entirety of his family. Okay, that was all context. However, this video is not about the crimes of Chris Watts, nor is it about his catastrophically deficient attempt to conceal them, for that is the realm of true crime, which this channel is not, and Chris Watts' content is cornucopian in magnitude. This video is about the alleged paranormal events related to the Watts murders, and even the most strict skeptic must concede that chance alone seems insufficient in describing some of the aberrations that occur here, the first of which occurs immediately where I left off. You're about to see, in my opinion, one of the most incredible moments ever caught on body cam. It is so awe-inspiring and magnificent that no genre exists to adequately classify it.
Hazel. You're good. Yeah, I thought nothing.
Nothing for the rest of the day.
No, that's it. She's pregnant as well.
How far along?
14, 15 weeks.
The app that Nathan Trenistich is using to show his security footage crashes, and up comes a commercial for a National Geographic program. And you can see how badly Chris wants to get out of there, but the sight of a fetus in the womb reclaims his attention. He killed one of those approximately 6 hours prior to this moment. The depiction of the unborn proves so unsettling and surreal to Watts that it prompts him to make a guilty utterance.
She's pregnant as well.
She's pregnant as well. Once satisfied that it had coerced an admission out of him, fate moved on to show a small festering flame that abruptly explodes into a mushroom cloud of fire and devastation, perhaps summarizing what he had just done to his life. The television then goes on to show a masked face rising from a pool of petroleum, only to disintegrate into a skull bathed in crude oil. And it's at this point that he actually turns his back to the TV. He literally faces as opposite to the screen as he can without making direct eye contact with the cop, and he will stay there until the second the commercial ends. And maybe there was low volume that Chris heard to indicate that the commercial ended, but he does not face the TV again until it's over. Put yourself into the shoes of this despicable monster. You have just murdered your wife and unborn son before doing the same to your daughters aged 3 and 4, and then shoved them into an oil silo, the opening of which was too small for them to fit comfortably. But you were unaware that your wife had a doctor's appointment. The time you had allotted to come up with a story and clean up is gone. And a mere 6 or 7 hours after doing the abominable deed, with 0 hours of sleep, you find yourself watching a police officer who is watching footage of you load your family into your truck as if they're bags of junk bound for Goodwill. Then the app crashes, offering a brief respite from the terror you've put yourself in. Except there's no respite at all, because it's showing your deed in a far more dramatic way. A fetus and a human skull disintegrating into a pit of petrol. Objectively speaking, of course. This is just a coincidence. But how do I phrase this? I feel like if I looked through TV programming for 100 years straight, I would not have been able to find a more perfect and fitting 9.7 seconds of footage to show Chris Watts at that exact moment in time than Nathan Trinistech's TV did, due to a glitch. I'm not saying this came from beyond the grave or from above the clouds, but damn, I'm hard-pressed to think of a greater or better timed act of coincidence. Okay, moving on. The next day, on August 14th of 2018, a very glum Chris Watts can be seen preparing to leave the house to go to the police station where he will inexplicably agree to take a polygraph test with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation's legendary agent Tammy Lee. And while he's busy battering away at his own coffin nails, his house is searched. And the very first bit of alleged paranormal evidence can be seen nearly as soon as the searchers enter the house.
Smells like cleaning, doesn't it?
It smells like cleaning. Pro tip, you know you're cooked when the canine searcher thinks you're guilty in the first 13 seconds. Now, you probably didn't see it, and I'll be honest, I don't really see it either, but many viewers claim to see what looks like a child looking through the balusters. I see something, but I don't know. Considering the context of the situation and the nature of this video, I would be remiss to not mention it, if there is literally anything to the archaic phenomena known as ghosts, a notion that very well may predate humanity itself. Then this place is certainly a premium candidate to host them, and this assertion is supported when the crew searches Shannon's walk-in closet. And I'll have you know that I tried my absolute best to reduce the ambient noise and amplify the subject without losing quality.
Well, there's plenty of first in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was it. Let's watch the rest.
Oh my gosh. What in the world was that?
Wow.
Go in there and step on that little blue thing and see if that's where that noise came.
Yeah, it sounded like a kid toy.
It might. It sort of sounded like it.
Something. There was a. I heard it.
That one. Did you hear it?
I did.
Sounded like a kid giggling or something, didn't it? Or a kid.
It did.
Where did that come from? Because all he did was go straight in there.
It sounds like the elder of the two women is legitimately unsettled, so much so that she will not re-enter the room. Now, I can't find out much about this woman, and I don't really want to because I don't want to invade her privacy, but you'd think it would be difficult to rattle a career canine handler. It's safe to assume that she has dealt with some awful situations and equally awful sights. So to me, her reaction is significant. And what stands out to me about the other woman's response?
It sounded like a kid toy.
It sounded like a kid toy.
It sounded like a kid toy.
The way she spoke is reminiscent of how I speak when I'm trying to soothe myself. Very matter of fact and bland. It was a kid's toy. Case closed. That's what we're going with because now is not the time to entertain the alternative. Has anything ever happened to you that forced you to entertain a comfortable conclusion, even though you remained most unconvinced? And then how grim she sounds in agreeance.
Did you hear it?
I did.
Did you hear it?
I did.
Did you hear it?
I did.
Like she's not going to deny it, but she also doesn't quite want to think about it.
Sounded like a kid giggling or something, didn't it? Or a kid.
It did.
It did. And it very well may have been a kid's toy. But the fact remains, they spend the next few minutes trying to find what made it, and they can't, nor can they replicate the sound. Which makes you wonder. To me, though, their reaction is more telling than the noise itself. This is one of those things that if it wasn't recorded, you'd probably keep it to yourself. What I call a geography joke. You had to be there. body cam audio will go on to catch a plethora of alleged EVPs, and I'll play many of them. But I'm mentioning this first one explicitly to debunk it, which I very rarely do, but there's been a bunch of buzz about it, and I don't think it's anything whatsoever. So when they're in the foyer, there's an EVP. And I hate that I know this from all the research I've been doing on this terrible case, but it doesn't even sound like Shannon. And then it's said that you can see Shannon in the mirror, and I don't think this is so. See how the figure backs off with the camera? I think it's likely this was just one of the many people in the house making a noise. As you can see, the room is quite lofty, ironically because there's no loft, but it's echoey no doubt. And then the person wearing the body cam captured herself on camera. Is it spooky looking? Absolutely. But spooky looking does not paranormal make. Okay, now that I got that one out of the way, numerous other examples of EVP were said to have been captured. And real or not, they are creepy as all hell, and even rather heartbreaking. I won't be spending much time on them. I could likely make a whole 40-minute video just on these EVPs, but this is by no means a testable or constant setting. So I'm just going to play each one several times, a few times without the alleged meaning, and then a few times with.
There's plenty of first anger here. 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 There's plenty of first anger here.
I don't care how rational or empirical you are, this next one is pretty chilling. Any guesses? To be honest, these were more otherworldly than I was expecting, but I'm a person who talks to myself, especially when I'm working, and especially when I'm working with my animal, which of course is precisely what the searchers were doing. So no matter how authentically ethereal these captures may sound, there is no pragmatic reason to suspect that they are anything other than the searchers' murmurings. But the high strangeness here is not confined to cryptic camera captures of audio and visual. On September 21st of 2018, 39 days after the annihilation, and 37 days after Chris Watts' cringy confession and most deserved arrest, Fredericksburg police receive a call from Shannon's mother, who said she received a text from an unknown number. The text, weirdly enough, said that the back door to her deceased daughter's home was open. And weirdly enough again, whoever texted her that wouldn't respond. Now, body cam footage of this was not released. But police went to the house in the light of day, and they found the back storm door open, but the actual door that admits entry was locked. Stranger yet, it's mentioned in the Weld County DA office's discovery documents that the lights in the garage were not on when police arrived, but turned on at some point while they were checking the perimeter. On this occasion, the police didn't enter the house or attached garage, claiming they had no reason to suspect anyone was inside. Which is odd considering that they saw a light turn on while they were literally there, but maybe it was motion activated, and the person who texted Shannon's mother with that condescending tidbit was never identified. And seriously, what is up with that? Sandra Ruchek had just lost her daughter and 3 grandchildren a month ago, and someone wants to tell her that the storm door is open on the house, which by the way, is not something anyone should know unless they're up to no good. Anyhow, that wasn't the end of the strangeness on September 21st, for police would return that night. See, Nathaniel Trinistich called Shannon's father to tell him that his security footage captured video of a shadowy woman entering the Watts residence at 9 a.m. and never leaving. I want to mention this because so many channels here on YouTube get this wrong. They say that Nate saw or recorded the woman enter the house that night, but I read the discovery documents, and that's not what happened. Nate didn't get a chance to look at his security footage until that night. The footage of the woman entering the house is from around 9 a.m., and that security cam footage was never released. Also noted was that a black SUV slowly passed the house several times throughout the day, but never stopped, and no one was ever seen entering or exiting the vehicle, so it's unknown if it's related to the shadowy woman, the woman with dark hair. So many questions. So many questions. Why text someone that a storm door is open? Some people have suggested that it was just a friend of Shanann's, who stopped over, found the door open, then locked it and left. Okay, but then why would she text at all? And why wouldn't she respond to follow-up texts? Is the dark-haired woman caught on Nate Trinistitch's security cam footage even the same person who texted Shanann's mother? That would make some sense if the person lived on Mars and didn't know what happened to the Watts family. But if he or she didn't know, then why would they text the mom and not Shanann directly? Some people say it was a realtor or a bank agent or something. Okay, but then why wouldn't they respond to Shanann's mother? And why would they say anything at all? The door's open, you can lock it from the inside and leave. Some people think the dark-haired woman must have been Nicole Kessinger, Chris's mistress, not to be confused with Nicole Atkinson. Maybe, but Kessinger was trying to distance herself as far from Chris as possible, and the house had already been searched and processed 1,000,000 times, so it's not like she was trying to retrieve incriminating evidence or something. And still, if she was trying to be clandestine, why would she text the victim's mother? It's all very, very strange. Anyhow, after Nate found the footage of the woman with dark hair entering the house, he called Shanann's father, who called the police, and he gave the police the house's access code. Seeing as now they had strong reason to suggest that someone had entered the house, they went inside, whereas that morning, they had merely made sure the area was secure. Yet another anomaly is that the police triggered the house's security system in the garage. Yet Shanann's father, who was the last person in the house, was quite certain that he did not engage the security system when he was there last. And I don't blame him. Nothing there was worth protecting anymore. But that begs the question, what kind of intruder would activate the security system? When the police arrived, the garage lights were on. Ostensibly, they'd been on ever since they turned on the last time the police were there. And to me, this rules out some kind of motion sensing device. If they turn on by motion, then they turn off automatically. So who turns lights on in a house they weren't supposed to be in, as police were actively searching the perimeter? And if someone was in the house who wasn't supposed to be, why would they text Shanann's mother to tell her that they could get in? Who would anonymously text a grieving mother to tell her that her deceased daughter's storm door is open, and then not respond to further follow-up? Did whoever it was mean that the back door was open, and then he or she locked it themselves? And who was the shadowy woman captured entering the house? And how and why was she never captured leaving? Well, these are only a few reasons that may explain why the 5 police officers are a bit jumpy as they make entry at 11 p.m. on Friday, September 21st of 2018. Now this footage, too, is rife with alleged EVPs, but in my opinion, it's just the officers talking to each other from far away, or talking to themselves. That being said, there are a couple of clips that I find rather intriguing, and it's at the top of the stairs where the first alleged apparition was captured. There seems to be a child peeking out from behind a police officer, and my first thought was, are you joking? But the more you look at it, it's kind of hard to make sense of, and I'll scrub the whole little sequence. There are 5 officers in the house at the time, and I believe 4 of them are upstairs, and this very well could simply be one of them standing behind the one we can see clearly. But it does at least appear childlike in stature, and it almost seems to be wearing a dress of some kind. This is not the kind of thing I'd bet money on, but given the gravity of the situation, I think it's interesting. All the popular ghost footage breakdown channels showed this, right here, as the apparition at the stairs. If I had to say there was an apparition at all, I'd probably pick this. About 30 seconds later. Again, it very well could be just another officer, or a shadow, but it doesn't look good. Not one little bit. This is not at all what you want to see in your house. Whispering filth to your husband. Obviously, I'm not a policeman, but I have watched a ridiculous amount of body cam footage, and these officers seem far more on edge than officers in far more hairy situations than this, and I don't mean that as an insult. When they're clearing the dining room, some people claim that you can make out an apparition sitting in one of the chairs. Again, I see something, but I don't know. The figure's at the top of the stairs, and this, what at least looks like a semi-translucent pillar of something, across the chair to the right. They're strange, but surely not as strange as a shadowy woman recorded entering the house and never leaving. The 5-bedroom and 4-bathroom house was taken by the bank in 2018, and then sold to the Millers in 2022 for $600K, which was $60K below asking price. The Millers have 2 little girls, and their youngest is a little boy. The new buyers were criticized by internet voices for evidently mirroring the Watts family. In her defense, Mrs. Miller said, "We have 2 girls and 1 boy, just like Shanann did. We did not have control of the birth order. We did not know Shanann before we had babies. And millions of other families have 2 girls and 1 boy in that order. Please stop calling us creepy for something completely out of our control. Our children's birth order had 0 to do with the decision to purchase this house. It's being said that I look like Shanann, dress like Shanann, and I'm trying to be her. And the decision to buy this house is because I'm obsessed with her. Like most of you criticizing me and making such ridiculous assumptions, I did not know her. I am just another 32-year-old white girl in a small town in Colorado. We all wear leggings and cute shirts and try to style our hair. I have dressed the way I do for years, and I still have the clothes from 10 years ago. If I dress like her and look like her, so do most of the other moms I know at my age. Are they obsessed with her too? You saw a picture of me in one outfit and decided I was trying to be like her. I absolutely believe Shanann would be happy about us buying her home, and loving it rather than watching it deteriorate, and having people fear this place she loved. We will not be turning this into an Airbnb tourist attraction, or profiting from it in any way, and we are so happy that someone who may have had those intentions did not purchase this home. I have wanted this home for a long time. It is beautiful and perfect for our family. I don't owe anyone a single explanation on why we bought it. But that's basically it. Along with wanting to do the right thing by Shanann and her family, I do believe that we were meant to be here, and we are so happy despite how people have treated us for buying it. We did not buy this house because it's the Watts house. We wanted it because it is perfect for our family and our lifestyle. It is beautiful and spacious, and in a lovely neighborhood, and we have every intention on making it a normal home again." End quote. Well, they lasted 1 year and 5 months, with a couple visits by police for DV in between.
Is this the old Watts house? Is this the old Watts house? I think it is.
The Millers put it back on the market for $775K in April of 24, before reducing the price to $699, and then finally selling it for $650 on October 17th of 2024, where it is occupied at the time of this video's creation. I've always found it strange how skeptics tend to believe in what I'll inaccurately call mojo. Like, no, I don't believe in ghosts, demons, or anything at all. But no, I'm not living there. Some people say that trauma in a place creates ghosts, or worse. Or that said trauma attracts, or is even caused by that which we don't understand, but have tried to for eons. I wouldn't live there. I'm skeptical of all things ghostly. And frankly, I think I'm more skeptical than I have any right to be. All the paranormal happenings described in this video. Well, I'm not really prepared to go to bat for any of it. But at the same time, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamed of in your philosophy. A weird flex from some people on the internet came in the wake of the news coverage. Shanann was no angel. Shanann was obsessed with social media, and shallow. She had fake medical conditions. Shanann has a weird name, and you're not pronouncing it right. And I gotta say, I don't particularly care if she was a legit worshipper of Baphomet. Get a divorce. Get a divorce. Get a divorce. He did what he did because he didn't want to seem like a scumbag. Can you even imagine? It can be argued that Chris Watts is the worst of the worst. At least people like Russell Williams and Dennis Rader seem to love their families. To practice the art of empathy regarding your more typical evildoer. I understand compulsions, and I certainly understand addiction, and I empathize to an extent how they can creep up on you. You've had this obsession or fascination since childhood, and it grew, and so did you, and it got out of control and consumed your life. And I'm by no means excusing their behavior, but I think I can understand it to the degree that someone without the affliction can. But what I will never understand is how you can callously murder your entire family because a pretty girl at work winked at you. He didn't even bother to make it less painful for them. He wasn't intentionally sadistic. Chris Watts was indifferently sadistic, which is kind of worse almost. You expect this kind of thing from a predator, not from one of the 2 people whose love you've always considered to be unconditional, though you wouldn't be able to define that word if asked. Bundy and Dahmer had a festering desire since adolescence, whereas Chris Watts just kind of didn't want to get a divorce. Murder wasn't a whim with these people. It was an infernous addiction. For Chris, it was no different than taking out the trash. And for that ultimate transgression, a small degree of comfort can be found in knowing that all his days to come are nothing more than a requiem for what could have been. From where he is now, in a Wisconsin prison because they couldn't keep him safe in Colorado, being married with 3 kids in a lovely house probably doesn't sound so bad. Anyway, make sure to like this video because that really helps me a lot. And as always, count your blessings, and thanks an awful lot for listening.